Last Thursday morning, I went in and had a vasectomy. Yep, Mike D is done, like completely done. Chose to have a vasectomy. And there are a couple of different reasons behind my choice to do so. What's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go. What's up, y'all? This is Mike D, Mr. Double Down on You, with another episode of Black Fathers Now. Now, dig this, fellas. We're going to have a really interesting conversation today. And I'm going to be very transparent about something that I went through very, very recently. And the title of this episode is To Snip or Not to Snip? That is the question. So you probably know what I'm talking about. To snip or not to snip? That is the question. So, it's interesting. As a married man, as a father of two, as a brother in his early 40s, there literally comes a time when you think about, from a birth control perspective in your relationship, when is that moment in which y'all are completely done? And once you've made that decision, what are the measures that are going to be taken to just about ensure? And I say just about ensure because nothing is 100% guaranteed, right? But just about ensure the fact that you are really done. Not just done, but done. And there are a few different methods out there to ensure that you are done. And one of those methods is for us, dudes, brothers, men, husbands, to get snipped. Yeah, I know. It kind of makes you cringe even to think about it, right? And but it's an interesting conversation that we're going to have today. And before we get started, I have to say, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. So anything that I'm talking about now is based off of my personal experience, my personal perspectives. I'm not encouraging you to go this route, nor am I discouraging you. I'm just purely giving information so that maybe this will help you to see things from different angles, to have those conversations with your wife, with your spouse, have those conversations then with your doctors, and figure out, what works best for you. But again, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. So this is not medical advice. This is just my story. And I just felt the need to share. So to snip or not to snip, that is the question. And the answer in my world is that we chose to snip. So very recently, at the recording of this is like less than a week ago, last Thursday morning, I went in and had a vasectomy. Yep, Mike D is done, like completely done. Chose to have a vasectomy. And there are a couple of different reasons behind my choice to do so. And my wife and I's choice for me to do so, but it's my choice. She didn't tell me to go do it. I actually initiated the conversation, and we thought about it, we prayed about it, and we're like, you know what, this is probably the best method or the best route for us to take. But this is something that's been thought about for a while. We think about the fact that we have two beautiful, healthy kids, a boy and a girl. We're at a place in which we're comfortable with the number of kids that we have. And we really are not, we don't feel that we're not in a place in which we want to have more, right? Biological kids. Now, whether we adopt some later or mentor and all of that, that's a different story. But as far as biological kids, we're done. I am about to turn 41. Actually, at the release of this, I will have already turned 41, and I'm not going to give my wife's age, but she's a few years younger than me. But the thing is, when you start to think about that and raising your kid, because having a kid is just step one, then you got to raise them. So you basically got 2 decades of raising a kid. And so we thought about it based off of us, based off of what we're interested in, based off of what we're bringing to the table. And we were like, we're at a point in which biologically we're done. So we decided to find a way or think about permanent means of birth control. And really at this stage of the game for us, there were 2 options. It was my wife getting her tubes tied or me having a vasectomy. And truthfully, she's already popped out 2 babies. I'm like, it's on me now. So I'm the one that needs to kind of make a move, right? Need to go bust a move. And so to that point, that was the decision. And so when we thought about it, then obviously the research started to happen. You really started to look at what is a vasectomy, what goes down, what are the potential risks. You look at all of that because truthfully, before you do anything, before you step into any procedure, before you take any medication, you should make sure that you're fully aware of the benefits, but then also the risk involved. And if you only look at one side of the equation, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You always want to be an informed patient, informed consumer. You want to be an informed person, right? And make sure to not get dogmatic and just looking at things from one angle and one angle only. Look at the broad spectrum, take the information in, pray on it, process it, discuss it with your spouse, discuss it with your medical professionals, and then make an informed decision. And that's what we did. So when I looked at the whole concept of a vasectomy, I looked at the numbers, and I think roughly about 500,000 men in America right now get vasectomies annually. So it's a pretty routine thing. And also when I've talked to contemporaries and, other men, other brothers, and I, just kind of bring it up, it's a very common conversation. And more often than not, if they've not had one, the conversation has come up in their household on whether or not they're going to consider it. And so I did that. I did my research. I looked at the potential downsides and, if there are some, some bleeding issues or if there's some issues with, healing and all of that, there could be some challenges there, but those are the frequency of those issues is pretty low, right? And also, again, like I mentioned earlier, there's no birth control that's like 100% aside from just not getting down. But real talk, I'm a married man. We gonna get down, okay? But the reality is everything's not 100%. So even a vasectomy. So there are instances in which you can have a vasectomy and for some way, shape, or form, the thing reattaches and you're still fertile, right? So you have to understand that. So that's another risk involved. But then the benefit is if everything goes well and once the healing process happens, you don't have issues getting it up because, obviously that's step one. We're like, hey, does that impact anything in regards to getting it up? Because if it does, we're going to have to find something else, right? That's, that was a major concern. But the reality is you're not impacted on getting it up. And because the procedure literally disconnects or cuts the vas deferens, all you're doing is basically cutting the tube in which the sperm travels through, but everything else stays intact. So I looked at the benefit. That's minimal. I also looked at the benefit of this is a very routine and short procedure. This is not something you got to get put to sleep for. And then we weighed it out and we were like, this is probably the right way to go. So once I did my research, once my wife and I talked about it and we came to the conclusion that this is the direction that we want to head in, I then went and spoke to my primary care physician. So fellas, real talk, this is why it's important to have a primary care physician and a relationship with one so that you can ask questions, you can get referrals, you can get recommendations. When something comes up, you can pick the phone up and say, hey, I got a question about this. You can ask them a question, right? It's not just about going and getting your physical, getting your shots and, getting your blood drawn yearly to understand what's going on. It's not just that. It's also having an expert or someone who is well-versed in the realm of medicine to bounce ideas off of. And so for that reason, I have a good primary care physician. And, once we made this decision, my next step was, my annual physical to sit down and talk to him about it. And when I mentioned that to him, he mentioned first, he was just like, oh yeah, absolutely. He got his done. And he said he has a really good referral of a urologist who could perform it, does a really good job, has really good bedside manner. And so I got the recommendation from someone that I trust. And I would say that that's extremely key, right? When you're doing anything, this isn't something that you want to just go through the yellow pages or just kind of Google on, your phone, who does vasectomies in your area and just kind of point and shoot. You want to get a recommendation of someone who has some history there, right? Who's done a good job and has very good rapport, with patients. And then also other medical professionals recommend and recognize that person. So that's the route that I took. And so once I got the recommendation, I called the urologist. We scheduled a consult. And so when you meet with your urologist, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to have a consult. Now, because, we're recording this and all this happened during COVID, our consult was virtual. But the reality is all the consult is you sitting down and having a conversation with the urologist to basically him to give you all the ins and outs of the procedure, what happens, the recovery time, what it's looking to do. He gives you all the disclaimers of what happens from the standpoint of what may happen if things don't go right. But then he also is there to answer questions for you, right? And to give you statistics and all. And, one of the questions that I had, because I'd come across some information and it was on a site or whatnot that stated that there was a correlation or connection between vasectomies and prostate cancer. And again, that has been debunked from other research. But when you see stuff, and again, Dr. Google, when you go online, you can find everything. You'll get a whole lot of stuff out there. And to that point, when you get information, you want to run it by verified sources as well. So you check, and not even just there, you then want to ask and find different sources outside of that to validate what you find, because there's a whole lot of stuff floating around that might be true, but then also it could be fudged because people can play with numbers and play with percentages, and they don't necessarily denote whether something is a causal relationship or if it's a casual relationship, or they don't denote any of that, right? In a lot of instances. And so sometimes information is just information, but it might not be good information. So you want that to be validated. So I had a question about that. He answered it to my approval. And then, after he gave me the process of what happens, we literally said, I think I want to move forward. And from that point, I scheduled to have my vasectomy. And so, yeah. So now we kind of get into the nitty gritty. So I'm gonna be honest with you. When you think about anything happening in that particular area of your body, your spidey senses go up and you get a little bit anxious. Like literally, I don't think there's any guy who's had a vasectomy that was not anxious on the front end, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. They tell you that they're going to have to numb the area. So, that means there's going to be a needle involved, and you're like, oh Lord. And then after that, they tell you that there's going to be some pulling and prodding and all of that. And you're thinking to yourself, oh Lord. And then they also tell you that they're going to have to snip and they're going to have to burn. And you're like, oh Lord, you're saying all of that in your mind before you get into the process. And, and the thing is, it's that area of the body. And what they also tell you is that if you are a person who is very anxious, then they can give you something to calm your anxiety prior to. But the only challenge is if you take something like that, that's going to calm your anxiety, then you're no longer able to drive yourself home after the procedure. So you'll have to have a driver there. But if you can manage your anxiety without, outside medications and all of that, then honestly, you can drive yourself to the procedure and drive yourself home. Okay. So again, dealing with that area, there's going to be anxiety, real talk. I mean, I was anxious. I'm pretty calm to an extent. I'm high energy, but I'm pretty calm when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, my blood pressure was up prior to, like literally my blood pressure was high going into that. Like when the nurse took my blood pressure and my vitals before, I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, that's a little high. And she said, well, don't get too concerned because pretty much all men that come in for this have high blood pressure in the moment. So it's all good. So scheduled, and we actually went in. And so the thing is, there's really no prep to the vasectomy. So it's not like you got to stop, eating this or drinking that or not taking medications and all of that. Now, you might have some issues if you have some medications that might be blood thinners or something. But again, I'm not a doctor. Don't play one on TV. Follow the protocol for your physician if this is a route that you're going to take. But for me, it was nothing. It was basically, wake up, take a shower, and, head to the spot, right? Or head to the place. And what you're going to be told is that you need to either have a jock strap or some really tight underwear afterwards to keep things in place. And so literally I got to the facility, and I checked in. And again, I was a little anxious because, I didn't know what to expect. I'd never seen this done. I mean, I looked at it on YouTube, but had never seen this done. And so I checked in. They went over everything. And literally, we went to the back, went into the room. Lady took my vitals. That's when I mentioned to you my blood pressure was a little high because I was a little anxious. And at that point, you're told to pretty much take everything off from the waist down and put on the gown. And then from there, you're taken off you walk into the room where the procedure is going to take place. And so, and to me, this was probably one of the most uncomfortable parts of it all. So you literally don't have anything on from your waist down. You just got a hospital gown on, and there's a nurse in there, and she's having casual conversation with you. And she was like, okay, well, sit down, and I'm going to basically recline your back. And so now you're fully exposed, just you and this nurse. And she rubs your area with this antibacterial cream and stuff. So basically it's all about cleaning the area. And so she's having a conversation with you, and you're sitting there, your junk is all out, and she's, cleaning you off and putting all this stuff on you while you are having a conversation, just a casual conversation. The cool thing was, we made it humorous because she told me that her husband had gotten a vasectomy, but she also told me that he punked out, 3 times before. He finally got it done, but he couldn't he had punked out going in. He was nervous about it. But yeah, so that was a very uncomfortable thing. You're laying there completely junk out, just you and the nurse, and she's cleaning you up, as far as putting the antibacterial stuff on. But then she also preps the area. So she then, lays all the things out so that the only thing that's exposed are your boys. Okay. So she has you set up, cleans you up, and she has you ready for the doctor to come in. And literally the doctor comes in and and first off, that's when you talk about your anxiety really getting high, because it's really about to go down now. So he comes in, has pleasantries, conversation and all. And remember, you're laying on your back, your boys are out, everything else is covered, and you're just there. And so you're sitting there basically with your hands behind your head, waiting on whatever's going to go down to go down. And what's interesting about it is you're wide awake. So you're not asleep, you're wide awake. It's kind of like when you go to the dentist. You know how close the dentist is when you get some, your teeth cleaned or a tooth pulled or whatever. That the doctor and the nurse are just about that close to you because they're right there pretty much on top of you. So you're having a conversation, and it's like being in the dentist office, but your mouth is not compromised. It's your boys being compromised. So what ended up happening is at that point, he's set up. He comes in and he numbs the area. And so literally it's a prick. And so they have a needle and they give you a prick down low. And the thing is, because that area, it's sensitive, but because the skin of your testicles is really thick, it's really not as bad as I thought. Like I thought that was going to be I'm about to scream loud, but the reality was it was not bad. That was not bad at all. The most uncomfortable part of that particular procedure was not the stick, was not even anything else, because you don't feel any cutting or whatever that they're doing. And there are multiple ways in which they perform vasectomies. You have the no scalpel, you have the multiple incision, you got the one incision, you have all these different ways in which they do it. So that's a conversation that you need to have with your urologist if you decide to go this route. But the thing is, the part that was uncomfortable was literally knowing that somebody is there pulling on your boys, like literally, and having a conversation with you, talking about football, talking about whatever. And, and you feel them tugging on your stuff. And so it's that part again is uncomfortable, and not uncomfortable from a pain perspective, but just uncomfortable. And it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but that's that, right? But the reality is that side is done in literally like 3 or 4 minutes. And then he moves to the other side and does the exact same thing. Small prick. And then, there's a little tug in, and they pull out the vas deferens, they snip it, they burn the ends, put it back in, and literally you're done. Like, the total procedure took 10 minutes from the time I walked in and the nurse cleaned me up to the time that I was walking out and she was pointing me back to the room to put my pants back on and let me know where checkout was. It literally was about 10 minutes. And getting a tooth pulled takes longer. Getting a tooth pulled feels more involved than getting a vasectomy. And so for me, that was kind of a surprising thing. And so they gave me an ice pack. They told me, hey, take ibuprofen 3 times a day for a couple of days. Take it easy for a couple of days with your feet up. Wear either a jock strap or some really tight underwear for a few days to make sure things aren't bouncing around. And literally just keep an ice pack on your stuff for a few days, and and everything kind of works its way out. And so to that point, I drove myself home. I walked out like nothing happened, and I had an ice pack down in my drawers when I was driving home. But literally, I had an ice pack down in my pants and drove home, and literally just kind of chilled out for a couple of days. Didn't do too much heavy lifting around the house for a few days, but literally that was on Thursday morning. By Sunday morning, it was kind of okay. Right. And then Monday, and then I'm recording this on a Tuesday, things feel just about back to normal. Now, what I'll say is my assumptions were this. I had assumptions that it was going to be like really excruciating, stinging pain in the recovery process. Like after you have a surgery or you get something cut, or even like when you have mouth surgery, a lot of times what happens is you have like really intense stinging pain, right? With this, I never had any stinging, intense pain. I did the ibuprofen for like 1 day, but then after that, I didn't need ibuprofen anymore. And it was just ice a couple of times a day for the next 2 days. And after that, everything has been pretty chill. Now, again, this is Tuesday. This happened this past Thursday. I'm still wearing tight underwear so that I don't bounce around a whole lot. But the last 2 days, I've been able to exercise. So I'm big on exercise, lifting weights and doing my thing. Now, I haven't gone super, super hardcore, but I have exercised and pushed myself a little bit, and things have gone pretty well. And so to that point, I would say that the recovery is going pretty well thus far. And as far as the pain is concerned, again, I was thinking, beforehand that it was going to be this intense, sharp pain. But the reality is it's more like discomfort. I posted this in one of the groups that I'm in on Facebook, and one of the guys said the feeling is like being kicked in the balls, right? And I was like, not quite right after getting kicked in the balls. But if you think about, and guys, y'all can relate to this, maybe when you were a kid, you can recall that time when you were 8 or 9 and it happened. But if you get kicked in the balls, like 3 days later from getting kicked in the balls, where it's kind of like this faint, slight discomfort, but it doesn't hurt. Like you can still run, you can still walk. It doesn't hurt to sit. You don't have pain, but it's like a little kind of like pressure, discomfort a little bit. That's basically it. And that's basically been from a feeling perspective, the pain on the back end of getting a vasectomy. And again, I'm just 4 days out, because this was Thursday and I'm recording this on a Tuesday morning. So it really wasn't that bad. And so, so for me, thus far, I think it's been successful, and we'll see going forward. Now, there's something else. So once you get it done, there's another part to it. And I think this could be a benefit for the fellas, is the fact that you are not completely sterile, or you are not completely shooting blanks until you have 20 ejaculations after the vasectomy. So one of the things that the urologist gave me a high five on, he said, hey, now that you got this done, you got to get 20 times in with your wife over the short time period that's coming so that you can get yourself completely sterile. And after that, you got to take a sample in. They test it to make sure that you have no swimmers left. And then from that point, you should be good. And so, so there's a benefit to getting this done. You might get a little more frequency, right afterwards. And that can be part of the deal if you're going to get it done. But anyway, that's a personal thing. Y'all can figure that out on your own. But again, I'm not necessarily recommending vasectomies to anybody, but I'm also not discouraging it either. Just make sure you're well informed. Make sure that you and your wife are done. And if you all decide to go down this route, make sure to definitely speak about it with your primary care physician and get recommendations of folks who have done thousands of these, because you want somebody who's basically can do these in their sleep. You don't want them to be asleep, but they have the ability to do them in their sleep because they've done them so much. So make sure you get a good recommendation. Make sure that you and your wife discuss it, that you're done. Make sure you follow the protocols afterwards and take it easy for a couple of days. And then from there, keep it moving. Also, you got to pay attention. I mean, again, I've been blessed thus far. And I hope it stays that way. I'm expecting it to stay that way, but you need to pay attention just in case something isn't right. And again, just be mindful, know your body. And when stuff isn't right, make that phone call, figure things out, and get the solution fixed. And I know when it pertains to that part of the body, you're not going to wait too long. You're going to make a call. So fellas, I hope this has been helpful. Oh, one more thing. So the vasectomy is not, this is not like this is not a procedure like a colonoscopy where it's typically covered by your insurance in regards to it being a routine procedure or a recommended procedure. This is like elective, right? So before you get started with this, also be mindful of your health insurance because, there might be a huge copay associated with it. You might have to meet a deductible, be mindful of all of that and understand that because this is an elective procedure. So cost wise, it could be costly depending on your insurance. But then on the flip side, if your insurance is, solid in that regard, it might not cost that much. And so just be mindful of that. Look at your numbers so that you don't get surprised because it is an elective procedure. But thus far, I've been pleased with it. My wife's been pleased with it. And, so I just wanted to kind of educate y'all on what I just went through. So y'all leave your thoughts on it. Again, I know that there are people who are totally against it. And I know there are people who are 100% all for it. I'd like to get your thoughts, let me know what you think about it. And, I hope this has helped you to be more informed as you reach the stage of your life or relationship in which, y'all might consider doing some type of permanent birth control. So let me know what your thoughts are. And as always, make sure to visit blackfathersnow.com, subscribe via your favorite podcast listening app. Make sure to go to blackfathersnow.com and click apparel. Look, we're getting into the holiday season, and I know folks are getting into shopping, and Black Friday's coming, and Cyber Monday's coming, and all of that. Make sure to visit blackfathersnow.com and click on apparel and get some apparel from Black Family Apparel. Literally some really dope apparel that reshapes the narrative of the Black family. But then also, it helps support the production of this podcast. So continue to go through and support. I appreciate you all thus far. Share this thing out. And if it's helped you, let somebody know that this episode helped you. And if it didn't help you and you're totally against it, hey, leave me a comment, shoot me an email, blackfathersnow@gmail.com. I'd love to hear about it. And as always, fellas, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace. Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always visit blackfathersnow.com, as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.